This is the world according to Jen and Carolyn.
Hey, Carolyn.
Hey, Jen.
Nice to see you.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
It's been a while.
It has. Oh, man. Technology foils us.
We really tried to tackle technology. I've got this PodTrack 4 that we got, which works really well as an interface. And it's supposed to be incredibly easy to be able to patch somebody in via phone. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I came to the conclusion I don't like the way it sounds. It sounds like it's somebody calling in on a phone. But anyway, we were going to try that. And Bill, my husband and producer, we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's so basic. Everything about this thing is so easy. I can use it.
It looks like something Egon used in Ghostbusters.
Yes.
The Gaugometer.
Yes.
I don't know what it was.
Spectrometer or some shit. Yeah. Totally. It's a PKE reader.
Yes.
It's a PKE meter, dude.
Thank you. The Gaugometer is something different.
I figured between the two of us, we could come up with this.
Well, and we're enjoying our summer.
Yeah,
you and I are typically out of town on the weekend. Yes. We've had guests. And we typically record in person.
Yeah.
But sometimes life gets busy and we don't want to keep you waiting.
We got death, taxes, all types of shit going on here. It's been busy, but we're happy to be back.
Yes.
By the time y'all get this, it should be, I think, no later than Thursday this week.
Score.
Yeah. So y'all are going to get a new episode. I know all 200 of our listeners are going to be really excited.
Do you think we have 200?
I think we do.
That'd be cool.
For sure. Apparently we got them in Portugal and various places around the world. So yeah.
Buenos Aires loves us.
I'm
that one person.
I'm big in Buenos Aires. That's
going to be our shirt.
I need a shirt that says that. So today, this is long awaited. In fact, Carolyn and I went to an event at the Academy of Sciences. They have a nightlife thing, which is cool. It's just for adults. And literally on the way, my mom called me and told me that my stepfather died. And so I was like, well, I guess the show must go on. So I proceeded to get really wasted. Carolyn was like, her stepdad just died. And the bartenders kept giving me free drinks. One did a shot with me.
Solidarity.
Yeah, it was great. And I also have to stop tapping the table and shit, emphatically, because I notice when I'm editing, I'm like, what's that sound? Bill's like, that's probably you doing something. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just such a hand talker.
Yeah, same.
It's hard. So we need to.
Italian and a Jew.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on my hands right now. I'm literally sitting on my hands.
So I won't do that. We're like 6-year-olds with ADHD. So anyway, yes, we're going to be talking about the history of tattoos today. Carolyn and I both love tattoos. We have tattoos. And then,
I want more tattoos.
I'm getting another one next month in New Orleans. I called and I made my appointment.
Did you?
Cannot wait.
Yes.
Yeah. Going to Electric Ladyland.
That sounds hot.
It does sound hot. Shannon recommended them and they seem like they know their stuff. And I can't wait. So, we love tattoos unless you're a white man with tribal tattoos. That's just a big fat cultural appropriation no, as far as we're concerned. But today we're going to kind of explore the history of tattoos and what tattoos mean to different cultures and, what tattoos mean first and foremost to me and Carolyn. So, Carolyn, tell us about your tattoos.
Well, I have a 69 that I got when I was 15.
Because you're a Cancer, not because you love doing 69.
I do not love. It's awkward. You try it when you're younger, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to try everything. You're like, this is a lot of work.
It is.
I can't multitask.
It's like Pilates. I do enough Pilates. I don't need to do sexual Pilates. Yeah, no, thank you.
No, it's a 69 because I'm a Cancer, but I got it when I was 15 years old on Ocean Avenue. I don't even think it exists anymore.
Not if they're tattooing 15-year-olds.
No,
that's for sure.
No, and it was I don't love it. It's actually my least favorite tattoo.
Okay.
I have a heart on the back of my neck that I got on Mom's Body Shop on Haight Street.
I love that
got it for free.
Whoa.
It was on Valentine's Day. They would do any heart tattoo. And I don't know if they still do this, but they would do it at the half of the proceeds. But it's so tiny. The guy was like, you can just have this one for free. And I was like, I'll just donate to the cause. And then I got my Que Sera Sera in my mom's handwriting, which is a song she used to sing by Electric Pen Jen on Geary. And my mom actually has I can talk later about my mom's tattoos because if you know my mom, you would go, Suzanne has a tattoo. That's insane. But again, you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. So I also love watching people get tattooed.
It's pretty
I find
cool.
it really relaxing.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the show Inked?
Yes.
Yeah. I love that show. I love tattoo culture. All the different, it's just, it's very sensory. I even like having the feeling of a tattoo when it's being done. Again, I've never had a painful one.
Yeah, you're lucky.
But I've never done big ones either.
You don't have one on your foot like I do? Yeah, that sucked.
So yeah, my fetish is tattoos, sleeve tattooed bearded men. So I got to get Mario to get some more tattoos.
Yeah, you do. And my husband has no tattoos and we're going to change that. So my first tattoo actually is on my ankle and it is the most busted prison tattoo ever. It's a stick and poke of a dolphin that I drew and it looks semi-deformed.
Did you draw that? I didn't know
I drew it. And this girl, Crystal, God rest her soul, I guess she died in a car accident several years back. She gave it to me. And
what's the significance of a dolphin?
I just like sea creatures.
Really?
I guess.
Dolphins? Yeah. I didn't know that.
I love dolphins.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's what I'm covering up in New Orleans with a crescent moon with like flowers dripping off of it. And I typically prefer my tattoos to be just black, natural looking. So that was the first. And then another sea creature, my first official tattoo was actually of, talk about cultural appropriation. It's like a Northwest kind of Native American orca. And I love orcas and I should have just done an orca, but I went about Native American. So that's on my back. That's my tramp stamp. And then I have a star on my foot. It was red because I identify as a democratic socialist. And it was done by my good friend Nick, who owns a wonderful tattoo shop called Godspeed in San Mateo. And he actually gave me my most recent tattoo on my arm, which is an anatomical heart with a crown of flowers.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, tattoos.
Yeah.
I love them. We love them.
Jinx, buy me a Coke.
Yes. So, Carolyn, tell me what you think some of the top tattoo trends were for 2023. Just give me some guesses.
A lot of like really dainty things, like isn't minimalist tattooing. And then there's this thing that a friend of mine does. He tattoos himself and other people, but it's like sketching on yourself, or it has a name. It's like, I don't know. It's like doodle tattooing or something. Like it's just doodles.
Okay.
I would think like a butterfly.
Yeah.
Is always popular, right?
Yeah,
celestial things.
They're back, baby. So I'm going to have you read this list that I found from a Stories in Ink article. So tell us what in 2023 were the top trends for tattoos.
Well, it says heart prints. Like, I'm guessing anatomical, or
it says heart print everything, especially animals. So,
heart print everything. Okay.
Let your imagination run wild.
Cool. I'm picturing like gory, like hearts and bloody animals.
That's what I prefer.
It's probably more cute.
Yeah.
So heart print everything, especially animals, says tattoo artist Andrea at Nosley Tattoo, who works at the Black House Club in Brighton. Humanizing animals, says Andrea. Tattoos of animals doing things like smoking, eating, wearing clothes. The sillier they look, the better.
Okay.
Yeah. Yay, butterflies. I guess that. Butterflies are back. Thanks, Mariah Carey. That'll make her happy.
Yep.
Tramp stamps are cool again. A lot of young people. Is it okay to call it a tramp stamp?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Are the tramps okay
I'm
with
owning
that?
it. I'm taking it back.
You're the least trampy person I know. I should have a tramp stamp.
I always wanted to be a tramp. I'm still an aspiring tramp, but it's hard to do when you're married and don't want to cheat.
It's funny. At first, when I saw that, I thought I misread it. I was like, Trump stamps?
Oh, God.
Oh my God, no. I don't want that.
I'm sure there's a market for that somewhere.
Yeah. So a lot of young people are getting work that's popular 20 years ago. So like, again, any placement, like I always feel like around the arm, like the barbed wire and stuff. Abstract tattoos, that I agree with.
That's cool.
It seems to be a lot more abstract tattoos that don't follow the rules of tattooing, said Dexter Kay, who works at Ink House in London. Small tattoos. I feel like Miley Cyrus made those really popular. Like just the little dainty things.
I don't know what she's got.
Blackwork tattoos, any design made up solely of black ink without the addition of color and gray shading. Gray shading is really hard. And then I've seen a lot of white and red tattoos.
That's cool.
And then I've heard you can also do invisible or glow in the dark ink.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Like black light shit. Yeah,
Like,
that's
get the
awesome.
fuck away from me in a dance club.
Yeah, I love it. So we're going to give you a brief overview of the history of tattoos. I'm sure we're going to miss something. So Nick, come at me. Tell me what we've missed. This is from the Smithsonian Magazine.
Ooh,
and
Smithsonian.
They clearly know about tattoos and tattooing 101. So the earliest known examples for a long time were Egyptian and were present on several female mummies dated to circa 2000 BC. Crazy.
Whoa.
But following the more recent discovery of the Iceman from the area of the Italian-Austrian border in 1991 and his tattooed patterns, this date has been pushed back even further, a further 1,000 years, when he was carbon dated at around 5,200 years old. That's fucking insane.
I found a picture of this I'm going to post up.
Yeah.
It's really cool how he's preserved.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have TV. They didn't have anything. I'm gonna sit around and draw. If I can't draw on the cave, I'm going to draw myself.
Yeah. No, that's badass. It's cool to know that it goes back that far. I'm going to have to look that up because I put this together and I didn't look the Iceman up. So I got to check his ass out.
You can check out the posts I'll make, Jen.
Oh,
are you
cool.
following us on Instagram?
I'm following us on Instagram.
Good.
I promise I'm sharing all of the stories that you laboriously and creatively make. I love them. So the Nubians to the south of Egypt are known to have used tattoos as well. The mummified remains of women of the indigenous C group culture found in cemeteries near Kuban circa 2000 to 15,000 BC were found to have blue tattoos. Cool. And then we've got the Polynesian Islands. They have an interesting history with tattoos, and Samoa certainly isn't an exception. Called tatua, I'm sorry, y'all, in their Samoan language, which is where we got the word tattoo. Tattoos are an important cultural practice that is passed down from father to son, which is why it's so egregious when white people do it.
That's when I think of tattoos, that's always what I think of is like Maori or Pacific Polynesian face tattoos, and all of it was used for war to look aggressive, or not always all of it, but that's like the beautiful arm detailing. They still have people that like tap it in. It's like beautiful. Some of the tools.
It's a rite of passage in these cultures, and that's why I feel like it's so egregious when white people are like, I like the way it looks.
You know, is it Cold Steel on Hate? Yeah, Cold Steel has I'll have to go there, and we'll go there and look at it. They have a beautiful section just of antique tattoo and materials and different piercing stuff. It's actually really cool.
Ooh, we'll have to go in and take pictures and then, promote them and hope they promote us in return.
I've gotten all my piercings there.
Oh yeah. I got my nose pierced there when I was 18.
You went with me to get my first navel pierce.
It's funny. I don't remember that. I must have blocked it out, or I must have been high.
You let me hold your hand.
Oh my God.
I know.
Wow. I blocked it out. I was like, touch, human touch must block out.
I would make you hold my hand when I'm getting my dumbass navel pierce. Like that even hurts.
It's awesome. I love it. So let's move on to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. In the classical world, criminals were forced to wear tattoos to mark them as such. Along with them, tattoos were common with slaves too. And so everybody knew they belonged to somebody. In the 1920s, that's when we got cosmetic tattoos. What? So like primitive microblading in lips.
Nice.
Sweet. And then here we have sailors. A lot of early 20th century tattoos had served performative or practical purposes. About 90% of sailors in the late 19th century sported tattoos. History Today estimates, period. With the sailors, their superstitions and other meaningful ideas were expressed in their body art. This is so cool. I had no idea, you guys. Anchors, decorated sailors who crossed the Atlantic and sometimes denoted ranks at boatswain. So they had anchors. Then folks got chicken and pig as a tattoo. Chicken and pigs were often survived shipwrecks. They denoted, that you survived a shipwreck due to their lightweight wooden. Oh, sorry. I'm really fucking this up. Chickens and pigs survived because they were in crates that floated, y'all. So sailors would tattoo the chicken, often a rooster, and a pig on each foot to prevent drowning. So it was all about superstition.
Interesting. Yeah. And also, ouch, your foot must be painful.
Oh yeah, I have one on the foot. It's not fun. So sharks thought to protect sailors if they fell overboard in shark-infested waters. Is this why Mario has that terrible shark tattoo on his arm? Because he works on the high seas?
His poor shark tattoo now looks like it looks like a salamander with a tail.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. He needs a new one. I call it Mortimer.
Yeah, that one is begging for a cover-up. Yeah. So send him to Nick. Okay. Tattoo artist Norman Keith Collins nicknamed Sailor Jerry as one of the most important pioneers in modern tattooing. he started by experimenting with stick and poke tattoos, which is what I have, when he was younger until he found himself in Chicago in the 20s. That's where he learned to use a tattoo machine. And he contributed to developments in tattoo culture, such as inventing carbazole violet, the first known purple tattoo ink, and single-use needles. I love it. 1960s, we saw a lot of peace signs, man. Of course we did. 1970s, a lot of Celtic knots. Jack Rudy started tattooing at Good Time Charlie's Tattoo Land in Anaheim, California. And he was pioneering of the black and gray scale tattoo art. And he solidified himself as a legend in the industry over the next few decades. And then in the 1990s, thanks to MTV's influence, it spread and celebrity culture developed in the 1990s and tattoo culture was introduced. I mean, think of all of the bands that we were fans of, like Soundgarden and I don't know if Nirvana and, you know, all these bands, tattooing became the norm.
And invisible places.
Invisible places. Yeah, totally. And then, you know, we saw things like sun tattoos, tribal tattoos, Chinese letters.
Oh, the Chinese letter tattoos. That was a thing.
I know. Unless you're Chinese, you shouldn't be fucking with that.
No.
So bad. And then in the 2000s, tattoos were considered mainstream by many, thanks to mainstream media centered around tattoos. And currently, tattoos take many forms and are definitely considered mainstream and accepted by a lot of folks. Everybody in my office has tattoos, and a lot of us have very visible tattoos.
It's more rare to find someone who doesn't have a tattoo nowadays.
I think it is. Yeah, it really is. So, you know, it's part of the human need to extend ourselves, says Shanghai Kate Helen Brand, a Buffalo-based tattooer who at age 60 has been at the craft 33 years. I love that. It starts at about 13 when we begin to identify ourselves as individuals and to claim our bodies. Tattooing is claiming your body for yourself with a story in it somewhere that reminds you you are who you are. I love that.
Beautiful.
Carolyn, on that note, talk to us about the psychological benefits of self-expression.
Yes. Well, and when I talk about self-expression, I'm not talking about self-esteem. That's very different. Self-expression is being able to express yourself authentically. And it's both internal and external, conscious and subconscious. And like you mentioned, it's part of maturity and human development. And authentic self-expression is absolutely necessary. Jesus Christ.
None of us can talk. We're out of practice, man.
For psychological well-being. All right. So literally in your words, your behaviors, how you dress, how we style our bodies, how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, how we communicate our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, this all wraps into self-expression. And it's changeable. And that's kind of cool. I mean, our bodies are ways to showcase something that we're interested in. You know, it's unique and it's part of the basic human need just to belong to a group, but also within those groups, how to stand out. Yeah. And unfortunately or fortunately, it's also how we perceive and judge others. And they do the same for us. So I love the humanistic theorist Carl Rogers, and a psychologist. He believed that the primary goal of all human beings is to what they call self-actualize, or basically become the best version of yourself. So my 69 at 15, I was super into astrology. That was something I felt, and I still am. I just would do it differently. Right. And this is something I've always used. I don't know who I got this from, but I'm sure someone owns it. I use this example of puzzle pieces. So this is something called a state of congruence. Self-actualization is when occurs when a person's ideal self, kind of who they want to be, is congruent with their actual behavior. So I always say it's the puzzle pieces on the inside match the picture on the outside.
And it takes a while to get there, you know, and it's important to go through different stages and to, you know, express yourself in different ways. That's part of development.
And you look at someone like Madonna.
Yes.
Or Cher kind of always has her same theme, but she's constantly, but to me, someone about self-expression, about renewal. Yeah. You know, this is kind of cool. I feel like women do this really well. Some men do it really well too. But anyway, so it doesn't mean you can't try, like you said, you can't try on an identity or even change who you are. And that's cool. Part of being a human as well. But it's this direct correlation between being confident and authentic about how you feel about something, which is why I personally think if you want a tattoo, wait for a little bit.
Yeah.
Give it some time, and make sure it's something you're really, the future you is going to be cool with, or even if you're not, it's still a funny story.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in 2022, someone named Janine Hodge, and she's a psychotherapist, points out that having the freedom and confidence to say what we truly believe and feel, and when our actions align with our own beliefs and values, we're more likely to actually experience good mental health, connection, well-being. Inversely, not being able to express ourselves fully has a negative impact on our mental health and well-being. And that research even lanes into a correlation between loneliness and well-being depends very heavily on the extent to which we can express ourselves authentically.
Okay.
So when teens come into the office and their parents are like, I don't want them to have colored hair. Oh. I'm like, okay, mom and dad.
Why?
Well, that's what I believe, right?
Yeah.
Of all the things they can do.
Right.
If that's how they want to express themselves, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
But I've even had parents be like, I don't want them to polish their nails. And some of that can be religious too.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's, again, there's this identity that happens for us where, if you're, and I think this is what makes tattoos counterculture kind of cool. And it kind of bums me out that it is kind of mainstream because it used to mean something, but it had a very negative connotation.
Sure.
Now it means something about, again, even the age limit is 18. Yeah. Which isn't really an adult, but you know what I mean? So I just think it's this kind of interesting dichotomy between I remember in high school, as people would turn 18 who were like were seniors kind of the year early, all the girls were getting tattoos.
It's the first thing I did when I turned 18. I went and officially got a tattoo.
Silly. You could have done it at a skeezy place on Ocean Avenue.
Got a Beeps Burgers afterward. Fuck yeah.
But it was just sort of this rite of passage too of like, oh, now I can do something on my body and I'm going to.
Yes.
And I think that we forget how important that is chronologically. And it really, if you're not doing that, you're really invalidating someone's experience. So it's never it's a no. It's like, well, okay, let's consider what will happen if we don't let that person express themselves in that way. Yeah. They're going to get bigger and they're going to get more interested. But this is the reason why it fits in so well with body art and or even body modification that's beyond self-expression of tattoos. It's healing. And, this is the story I was going to tell about my mom. My mom grew up in the 50s. Yeah. And she had a bias around people with tattoos. Well, that's a prisoner. That's a sin. Yeah. You're bad.
She also can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery now.
That was a big thing for my dad. Yes. My dad had a thing about the Holocaust. Yeah. I'm like, no, that's branding. You're going to brand yourself. Right. Well, so there was a very different mentality about it. So I always hid my tattoos from my dad. Yeah. Because I didn't want to go there. It wasn't worth it to me to offend him in that way. Yeah. And I was okay with that. Yeah. The first thing my mom did after my dad passed away, she didn't even tell my sister and I this. She went and got a tattoo.
That's awesome.
And it was a dragonfly, which she loves. It's on her ankle. And I was like, what made you do that? Like, I'm fascinated by it. She's like, I just wanted to do something. Your dad never let me do that. And I just really kind of wanted to do it. Yeah. And then after having cancer and being, she's okay now, she got believed tattooed with another dragonfly. Yeah. And tattoos are, a lot of people get them to stand out or self-express, but we're, again, another main reason people do is for healing.
Yeah, that's right.
And it means something. There's a story to it. It's very cathartic.
Yeah. I read a story where these folks at a tattoo shop, they were so sick of people coming in and getting fucking the Tasmanian devil from Looney Tunes. They're like, we're not doing any more Taz tattoos. And this guy walks in and he wants a Taz tattoo. And he says, the reason why I want one is because my grandfather had one. He passed. My dad had one. He just passed. Now I'm getting all teary eyed. And he's like, so it's tradition for me to get one. And I was like, and so that made them rethink the whole policy. And they're like, you know what? Who are we to say what we're not going to do or do because we don't think it's cool?
Well, and tattoos, like you said, are a coping mechanism for trauma. Yeah. They're a physical reminder sometimes of an assault on the body. I know women who get mastectomies often will get beautiful tattoo work where their breasts used to be. And it's any assault on the body and mind gives people a sense of self and a way to gain control and reclaim something that's been lost. I will also say, I may be one of these people. Some people also enjoy and get a sense of ritual in the pain of a tattoo.
Sure.
And that's kind of sexy or whatever you want to do with that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Fortunately, the last one was so chill and no pain. And, it was done by somebody that I really love. And it's great to just sit there for 2 hours while this person's working on me and just shoot the shit. Yeah.
It's art.
Yeah. No, it's pretty
wearable
amazing.
Art.
Yeah.
Like clothing and jewelry.
Yeah, it is. And I love when people ask me about my tattoos or tell me that they like them. And it's just cool. It's definitely a conversation starter.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm always curious about people's tattoos.
Me too.
So, tattoos, as we said, like weed, have become mainstream. And according to a Guardian article from a few years ago, about 30% of 18 to 35-year-olds have at least one tattoo. And lockdown actually contributed to an uptick in tattoo requests. And according to the same article, lockdown gave people more time to reflect on what they want. Ashley Jagdeo, the owner of the tattoo parlor, The Circle London, says this combined with the amount of time the public have spent on social media recently has meant we've also seen a big increase in people deciding to get their first tattoo. So that's cool. Good for the tattoo industry. Getting a lot of business thanks to the silver lining of the pandemic. So according to a Zoo Tattoo article entitled The Evolution of Tattoo Culture from Counterculture to Mainstream, historically tattoos were mostly associated, as we said, with sailors, bikers, and other fringe groups. They served as a way for individuals to express their identity and allegiance to a particular subculture. But as it gained mainstream acceptance, the influence of popular culture, as we said, played a significant role. And celebrities started showcasing their tattoos. Remember Dennis Rodman? He was one of the first athletes. He had colored hair, piercings, tattoos. He's a bit of a weirdo in some of his beliefs.
Weird later on,
he did get weird, but he's, he was cool.
Yes.
You didn't see that in sports. No. Sports was still pretty conservative in that sense. So you're like, go Dennis Rodman. That's badass. You date Carmen Electra.
Yeah, he did date Carmen Electra.
So, as that one tattoo artist said, the rise in social media has only further propelled this mainstream acceptance of tattoos. Wow, I really can't talk. Out of practice, y'all. It's like we've been, we took a vow of silence during this time.
When I saw you today, I was like, I haven't really had this type of engagement in a while. I've been around children and myself a lot.
You're not having a lot of adult conversations. So this accounts for a lot. So, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. I know when I was considering, or when I started to consider the tattoo I'm going to get in New Orleans, I immediately went to Pinterest. Yeah. And I started looking for inspiration.
You have a file?
I have a what do you call it? A page
I forget what it's called.
A board, a vision board. Whatever the fuck
do you
it's
know,
called.
Can I segue?
Yes.
I invented Pinterest and I didn't know it.
God damn, if only you had the tech skills. When I was a kid,
I used to keep a notebook, and when I'd be going through magazines, I'd cut out looks. Yeah. And I had a wedding page. Of course I did. I had a wedding page. I had a future college dorm room, which is ironic if you've listened to other podcasts I have.
I don't know how you don't like the Vampire Diaries. You are the character Caroline.
I know.
You are exactly that friggin' character.
I don't know why I don't like it. I don't know.
You got to jump back into it, man. Anyway, so, there's still judgment out there. Don't get me wrong. I found this in a 2019 Our Weekly LA article, and it said, according to psychology.com, despite the increasing popularity of tattoos over the last decade, people with tattoos are viewed negatively. As well, studies focusing exclusively on tattooed women have found that we're judged more harshly than their male counterparts. And in Japanese culture, tattooing is also known as irizumi and has always been seen as controversial. So applying a tattoo has often been used as punishment in both Japanese and Chinese cultures. However, tattoos in Japanese culture were initially associated with firemen. That's cool. Who wore them as a type of spiritual protection. The Japanese government actually still makes it difficult for citizens to get tattooed while respecting the choice for tourists. Isn't that crazy?
I wonder if that's because it's what is it called? Austere, to be more covered up and that you'd be revealing? I don't know.
I can't speak on Japanese culture or anybody's culture that isn't my own American culture, but I don't know why that is. So interesting. Something to ponder.
Something to research, Carolyn.
Do your own research, guys. So, Carolyn, maybe you can give us some insight into what's with the stigma. Why are people with tattoos stigmatized, especially as chicks?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, what's called dermal diagnosis pathologized tattoos.
Okay.
And those who got them with psychodynamic implications. What that means is tattoos were supposedly from a mental health perspective, a medical perspective, rooted in antisocial behavior and exhibitionism, and that outcasts and outlaws obtain tattoos in order to bolster low self-esteem. This was literally the pathology of someone who got a tattoo. This was from an article. I just wrote Grummet 1983. I have no idea what that means. It is from somewhere because I highlight it. But basically, this individual in this article concluded that tattoos should be used as a psychic crutch aimed to repair a crippled self-image, inspire hope, keep noxious emotions at bay, and reduce the discrepancy between the individual and his aspirations, masochism, and acting out. So basically the exact opposite of self-expression. Yeah. But if you think about when tattoos were most stigmatized, it was at a time where in the 1950s and 60s, where being yourself, and I'd even say kind of back in the 80s too, was when weird that it also aligns with Republicans.
Absolutely.
Democratically.
Conformity.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, at that, from a DSM person, a diagnostic statistical manual, that makes sense. I think it's absolutely categorically wrong. So let's define stigma versus a stereotype. Okay. So the terms stigma and stereotype are often used to describe negative behaviors in society that are directed towards a specific group of people. And when a certain thing is attached to a stigma, it's associated with feelings of shame. So in the Oxford Dictionary, stigma is defined as a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person, versus a stereotype, which is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. So stigmas, it's very important to understand, stigmas are socially constructed relationships between something that's undesirable socially as a characteristic and is also a stereotype. Okay. So when a person is seen as basically deviating from mainstream in terms of ability, physical appearance, behavior, or health, they're going to be subject to rejection and prejudice in the social construct. So a Psychology Today article came out in 2018 that I found, written by Vinita Mata, a psychologist and a journalist, and she talks about something called controllable stigma, which is a term I was not familiar with. And she says, when the stigmatized individual is seen as responsible for their lot, and as the case with obesity, drug use, lung cancer, even as a consequence of smoking. So tattoos were seen as a choice. Okay. Therefore, if you were stigmatized for it, that was your problem. Oh, you asked for it. Okay. Right? All right. So according to system justification perspective, which is also something I hadn't heard of, stereotypes serve to justify the denigration of a certain group. So they legitimize the differences in social status and explain why social discrepancies between groups exist.
Sounds like racism.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's just system justification perspective, aka racism. So in the case of tattooed people, they're stereotyped to be criminals, dangerous, and drug addicts. And the kernel of truth hypothesis maintains that stereotypes of a certain group contain a degree of truth based on the observation. So yes, at the time, that's who was getting tattooed, but then that became the stereotype that if you had that, therefore you are this, which is wrong. So anyone who cares about what someone else does to or with their body, why that is a problem is beyond me. Yeah. Like, I'm the wrong person to ask. But in the interest of answering the question, I'm going to take you on a little research study conducted by Kristen Broussard and Helen Harton. All right. This is a really good study that, although their numbers were really small, it's been quoted a lot in lit reviews. So they looked at whether tattoos are still taboo in today's society. And this was in 2017 in the Journal of Social Psychology. Tattoo stigma and negative attitudes toward tattooed individuals. So they just recruited college-age participants, which in my term, you're already biased then because college-age people are a little bit more open-minded. Yeah. And half of them were basically looked at images of men or women with tattoos on their arm. Now, they didn't say what the tattooed images are, which I also don't understand how. I do think that would base someone's bias, like what you're seeing. And
wait, they didn't show whether they were on a man or a woman?
No, they show a man or a woman, but they didn't say in the art, they didn't say in the study what images they showed. I get it. Okay. Like if you showed me a swastika, I might have a different feeling than if I saw Bugs Bunny, eating some toast, right? Yeah. So they didn't say that.
Smoking a cigar.
And then basically they had the participants rate the individuals based on their characteristic personality traits, drinking behavior, cognitive abilities. And so most of the people in the survey were actually tattooed themselves.
Okay.
So the researchers basically compare that. So again, here's what the study found. Here's the good stuff. They found the pejorative perceptions of tattooed individuals, even if you yourself had one, internalized stigma, something. So they felt people with tattoos had negative personality characteristics, lower intelligence, lower levels of inhibition, competence, and sociability, higher levels of promiscuity, heavier drug and alcohol use. They also studies focused exclusively on tattooed women, like you mentioned. They did find that they were more judged more harshly than male counterparts. Women with tattoos, now this I think is kind of cool, were seen as more strong and independent. Okay. I'm okay with that.
That's
like
not
basically
negative.
less passive, but still judged, right?
All good things.
Research reveals that women with this form of body art are perceived, though, as more promiscuous, heavier drinkers. This is weird, though.
Well, I am drinking scotch.
Less attractive, which I actually think tattooed women are. Well, I think tattooed people are hot in general.
I just think it's beautiful. I think it accentuates one's beauty.
But they also highlighted the workplace discrimination, which is true. It's still, as it's legal to discriminate for being in violation of a company's policy concerning appearances. One study found that hiring managers would not hire someone with a visible tattoo because it would taint the company's image. Wow. And they don't want that image. And so, you know, 2017 versus 2024, it's so different. Yeah. You know, the way we look at social media, but I don't know. I was really taken aback by the lit reviews.
It's not that long ago. 2017 is not that long ago, though it does feel like 100 years ago.
Stigmas, though, still attached to it. Like, I'm trying to, I'll have to think the next time. I'm so used to seeing them. Yeah. And most of my friends have them. It wouldn't occur to me. No. So I'm really curious what the tattoos were of. Yeah. I'm curious as well. I wonder if that makes sense. And where.
Yes. And also where in the country did this take place? Did they say?
They probably did, and I don't have it written down.
I just find it interesting that most of the folks had tattoos, yet still had negative associations associated with people who have tattoos. Right. So what does that say about themselves?
Well, that's what they were saying. Like, are they internalizing some shame about their tattoos?
Interesting.
Because initially, when I started getting tattoos, the point was to hide them from my father. But I didn't want, I was still dancing, doing ballet. I was still teaching kids. And it was told to me, like, you can't have this stuff on you or it's going to, which it wouldn't, I don't think that would happen now.
No, not in San Francisco.
No. And I also think it's a coastal thing too. But then when I go to the Midwest, I see, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, in Denver, everybody's tattooed. Yeah. I was just there. And everybody has a tattoo. New Orleans, everybody has a tattoo, you know, and it's interesting.
How would you feel? Do you feel differently about face tattoos though?
You know, I think it depends. Yeah. Like my friend Nick, he's got head and face tattoos, but that's his profession. You know, in Maori culture and Samoan culture, like getting a face tattoo is a thing. Yeah. You know, Native American women who get the face tattoo in Alaska, it means different things. So
I think it says more about you than it, like, it wouldn't occur to me. Like, to me, it's like your jewelry or what you wear. Yeah. It's art. It's self-expression. Sure. So it wouldn't occur to me to judge someone based on that. Yeah. I think it says more about the person who's having the judgment. Sure. Than it does about the person who's
if you're
I'm more interested in that study.
Sure. Yeah. If you're a person who judges, maybe you should start asking yourself why it is that you carry around these judgments and
turn the mirror on yourself.
Yeah, bro. So let's talk about cultural appropriation. We've hinted at it. And it seems to happen a lot with tattooing. And this is from Micah Riot's website. And I give this artist a ton of credit because they have an entire section on their website dedicated to, you know, cultural appropriation. And cultural appropriation, we should probably tell people what it is, but I think our listeners probably know. It's when white people take something from a non-white culture for themselves just because it pleases us. Oh. Okay. So now you know, if you didn't already know, but our listeners are smart. So that was probably unnecessary. So it happens in tattooing all the time, she said. And it happens in my studio very rarely or not at all because I'm extremely careful with what I will tattoo and on whom, she says, or they say. I'm not sure what their gender is. A lot of white people I've spoken to about this will say that they are not appropriating, but rather appreciating the other culture. Okay. Maybe they traveled somewhere, had a significant experience with someone from that culture. That's cool. You have your memories, you have your pictures. You don't need something from that culture tattooed on your body when it's not your culture. Sorry. Doesn't mean you need to get that tattoo. Tattoos actually aren't like jewelry. Jewelry can also be culturally appropriative.
Yes.
You know, remember Gwen Stefani, though this isn't jewelry necessarily, but wearing the bindi. Yeah. She was the worst cultural appropriator for a very long time. But I felt like the 90s were kind of all about cultural appropriation. Like Janet Jackson did it too and stuff. But anyway, it's not just white people. Though the definition I read, we can blame white people
white
the most.
People.
It's mostly
I'm okay
white
with
people.
That.
Somehow I feel less concerned with Janet Jackson does that video around the world where she's dressed in Indian garb, traditional Indian garb, and there's a sitar in the back. I'm like, well, not as mad about
you
this.
know what? I don't know her 23andMe.
I don't either.
She
Who knows?
might not be a culture appropriating.
The Jacksons might be Indian. We don't know. Who the fuck knows? So anyway, when you take something or take someone for yourself something for yourself that doesn't belong to you, that wasn't created for you, it's not going to sit well. In fact, it has bad vibes. I think it's tacky as fuck and makes you look like that white person. You're going to regret it. Just like I regret the whale on my back. Mine isn't quite as obvious. I don't think anybody would necessarily know, especially since the color has degraded over time, that it's a totem pole design.
It looks like, I was going to say, it reminds me of a totem pole.
That's exactly what it's taken from. So at some point I'll probably do something about it. But, I was also 18. If you're a 30-year-old man walking in and asking for a tribal tattoo on your arm, you're old enough to know better.
Yeah.
So, white people have the most power and they have to be careful with exercising that power, treading lightly and respectfully. It's time to stop taking whatever we want from people with less power. It makes us look like bullies, I think.
Well, and you're taking one piece.
Yeah.
And that's not fair.
Right.
Because you're not taking you're appreciating, but you're not taking any of the microaggressions that come with being in that culture.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. Yeah. You're picking and choosing what you want. And that's privilege.
Yeah.
I can pick like Rachel Dolezal.
That's exactly.
I identify as black. No, bitch. You don't get to just do that.
I think she's nuts, though.
She is nuts.
Well,
we should do a whole episode on her.
There's a great Netflix. Well, it's going to make you. It made me too angry.
Yeah,
but I think she really does have some. She's some sickness in there.
She's unhealthy in the mind for sure. Yeah. So this is from a Mank Union article. In one extreme case in 2015, an Australian tourist was visiting India and was harassed by locals due to a tattoo he had of the Hindu goddess Yalama, the goddess of fertility, and he was arrested.
Wow.
The tattoo was placed on the tourist's shin, which was seen as disrespectful to the religion of the local people and in the eyes of the sacred goddess. Whilst the tourist felt he was being mistreated simply for having his tattoo, the locals felt he had mistreated their culture and their beliefs.
Yep.
Besides a lack of research, another issue that arises with the cultural appropriation of tattoos is that often they're taken from cultures that have been oppressed, like you said. It might be the sugar skull from Mexico or the Hindu swastika sign. But and it's not a swastika when it's Hindu.
No,
it's just,
it means something totally different.
And then the Greek culture, they used what's now commonly referred to as the swastika. Native Americans used it as well. And the Nazis, like white people, took it from other cultures, and they turned it a different direction.
Nazis.
Yeah, Nazis fuck everything up. So, these symbols are now, however, being used by people without respecting their history or their origin, without crediting the communities from which they came. So it's super disrespectful. There's also an opposing philosophy on cultural tattoos from a reason.com article, practically calls those of us that see the practice of getting a tattoo with symbols or meanings attached to a culture that is not your own snowflakes. Oh boy. So
interesting.
There are some people out there who think, okay, this is fine. Like it's being appreciative, whatever. I don't think that's the case. So I want to counter with this. There's a quote from Professor, I'm going to massacre this, you guys. I'm sorry. Kahatu Maxwell of the University of Waikato, who is a Maori man with a tamoko on his face. He commented in an article discussing tamoko on white women that these tattoos are the Maori deciding to reclaim their heritage and identity, and that we have to protect the last bastions that we have as Maori that make us different. Oh my God. White women getting Maori tattoos.
Seriously?
Yeah, I guess it's a thing. Maybe it's a thing in Australia. Who knows? But yeah, not cool. So Carolyn, how do you appreciate culture without appropriating it?
Oh, wow. Colleen Murphy is a senior director at Health magazine.
Okay.
And she did she has extensive experience with interviewing healthcare providers and kind of looking at medical research and writing and editing. I really liked what I read that she wrote in 2023 on this topic specifically. So here's a few questions to ask yourself and tell you whether or not you're appropriating another culture. Are you perpetuating stereotypes of that culture? Are you using or taking another culture's attire or language and misusing it? Do your actions disrespect another culture? What emotions do you hope to invoke with your actions? Is it to be edgy or to be funny? So those are good questions to ask, but do not do it if you think that what you're about to do might even be appropriating the culture.
If you're asking yourself the question, it's probably cultural appropriation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So think twice before wearing a hairstyle, dancing on Instagram in a way that's traditional to another culture. Take a second to consider why you are doing it and what you're trying to get. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go to a Bollywood dance class taught by a Bollywood dancer. Sure. That's different. That's them offering you something.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you can't, if you're in an Indian wedding, that you cannot wear the regalia. That's different. One, you're being invited in.
Yes.
And while you may insist, because I know you're all going to do it, but I'm appreciating it. It's my intentions are pure.
Yeah.
We have to get that out of our brains.
Right.
I'm so sorry. Cultural appreciation reinforces stereotypes. This reminds me of like a lot of the times when we talk about Halloween.
Yes.
No, I don't want to say nobody knew. It wasn't common knowledge to know we don't dress up like Pocahontas.
And I did that when I was in my 20s.
I did too.
Yeah.
As Cleopatra, things like that. Right. Whatever. There was no ill intention.
Well, we were raised with that too,
we were
in
raised
terms
with
of
that.
movies.
But now we know different.
We do.
And we know truth and so again you're already culture appropriating by making it about you. It's not about you. It's not about you and what you want to do. Let's say this again for all the white people sitting in the back. When one culture takes or uses something from another culture without giving proper recognition or respect to that culture, I actually think being invited to do that.
Yes.
And even then, I don't know. So that means attire, language, another culture without permission or credit. It's cultural appropriation. It's basically plagiarism.
Yeah.
If you think about it in vivo, it's stealing something from somebody that's not you. This is from Neil Lester, PhD and creator of Project Humanities at Arizona State University. He told Health magazine, quote, "Cultural appropriation is about power. It's about who has the power to steal from somebody else and not offer any consequences." And the way I often can see it going to, it's like, I appreciate Celtic music. Sure. It's not appropriate for me to get a Celtic symbol on my body.
Right. I'm not Irish.
Yeah. I'm not Irish.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's different though, too, when that's your saying, but I appreciate it. It's not about you.
Right.
Culture appropriation highlights inequalities of power between dominant and minority cultures. You can address those inequalities by practicing cultural appreciation. So again, celebrating aspects of another culture with the permission, compensation and credit. Ask questions. I don't know. Maybe if you actually did some learning about what it means, do that first. Educate, like we would say, educate yourself first. If you educate yourself, go, "Ooh, that's not for me." Yeah. Colleen from the Health magazine points out that, quote, "Cultural appropriation involves celebrating a culture with the permission from the people in it. Yeah. You do not misrepresent or perpetuate stereotypes if you actually truly do appreciate the culture." So, like I said, I can tell a little story too. My sister works for, I forget which tribal council it is. Oh man, it's in
Arizona.
It's in Arizona. It's like the Hope. I'm not going to say because I don't remember. When she and my mom moved to Arizona, they acquired a lot of turquoise jewelry. They both love jewelry.
Yeah.
When my sister works in these tribal careers, she very immediately saw that you don't wear that.
Yeah.
And Native Americans, the history behind that jewelry and those stones is extremely powerful and extremely spiritual. The reason a lot of selling is happening is because people had to give away their precious things, almost like, what's it called when you do that? Pawn shops, to get money.
Yep.
So you're wearing someone's pain.
Yep.
And my sister will not wear, almost is at the point where she's going to give that jewelry.
Your sister's awesome because this isn't the first job she's had doing work with different nations where they accept her and want her advocacy. And I think that's really cool.
Well, if you know my sister, she's very, what's the word? Like not assuming. She's very respectful.
Yes.
And even within that, she's like, it's obvious you don't wear that.
Right.
And this is why. And it became more obvious at this particular job she's at. And it's really made her and my mom rethink some of the jewelry that they wear because it's not theirs.
Yeah.
It's someone else's. Now, again, if it's someone else, now a lot of younger cultures are creating jewelry that they want and they're getting money from. So you buy from certain places and it is their art, but they're getting the actual money for it.
They're being compensated the way they should be compensated.
So when you see more contemporary jewelry, it's different. And even then there's boundaries. You're not going to buy it from the gas station.
Right.
Or from the pawn shop.
Yeah. Pay an artist, an actual artist. Yeah. And the things that come to mind too, and sometimes the cultural origin of something is muddled. Like I used to get really irritated when I'd see white dudes with dreadlocks or white people with dreadlocks. And then I found out that this was a Viking thing too. And that this wasn't just associated with Black African-American Jamaican culture. Yeah. And I was like, all right, maybe I'm a bit more tolerant now. But
I just can't stand the patchouli. Sorry, hippies.
Usually the white people who have dreadlocks are like really annoying. So you can find other reasons to dislike them. But, that's the interesting thing about like cultural expression. Sometimes there's multiple origins. Yeah. But for me, it's whatever culture is most closely associated with that thing now. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I think about Madonna too, in terms of voguing. Like she took that from the drag trans community. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm fairly certain that she gave credit to one of the primary people and like compensated these people and stuff. So there was that appreciation, but
I don't know. I'm too superstitious. If I don't know. I don't want to take something and not give credit. Maybe it's from being in academia. Yeah.
All your sources, bitch.
All you have to do is learn and give the credit. Yeah. And make sure you're being honest and responsible about it. That's all people are asking. And hey, if you own it. Yeah. And do better.
Yep. Exactly. We're all allowed to make a mistake because we didn't know something. Yes. But when we do know, like your sister and your mom, who now know that wearing turquoise is inappropriate, they're changing their behavior instead of doubling down and making individually rooted excuses, which is privilege in and of itself, as to why they're going to keep doing that thing, as offensive as it is to the culture where that thing originated.
Yeah. And times change.
Yeah, they do. What is it when you know better, do better? Yeah. Yeah.
So no more getting peace and, Cantonese and God even know if that's what it says. There's so many different, I mean, just don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do it. So, final thought here basically is tattoos are beautiful. Yeah. It is a way to express something that is important to you, that symbolizes something that is meaningful to you. And we are very fortunate to live in a time and in a place where you aren't, for the most part, judged for being tattooed. Because when we were growing up, especially if you were a woman, my mom, even though she had tattoos, was like, don't get a tattoo. It's trashy. We're not there anymore. And if that's happening in certain parts of the country and the world, we don't live there. And I am grateful that we do not. So, when you're getting your tattoo, be reflective and be respectful and ask yourself, am I taking something that isn't mine and trying to make it my own without permission, which you can never really acquire for something like this from the culture that this originates from? Just try to think.
Yeah. Flowers.
But also, I'm saying this as somebody who has a Native American orca on my back because I was 18.
We're going to fix that.
You don't think much when you're 18.
Hey, if anyone wants to help Jen and I revise our my 69 and her totem orca,
come on, y'all.
We will be your guinea pigs.
We'll take it. I think I'm just, for my back, I'm going to go back to Nick and have him put something that isn't somebody else's culture on my back. Maybe I'll get something really big and Sicilian.
Ooh.
Just a big ass Italian flag. Just the word Sicily across my back. Picture it, Sicily, 1928.
No, dude, get Sophia Petrillo. That'd be even cooler.
I'll get all the Golden Girls on my back.
Dude, that'd be
dope.
cool.
Would that be?
That'd be dope.
Thank you for being a friend, everybody. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next week when we're going to bring you the history of circuses, or the history of the circus. Circuses. But there's some tattooed people in there as well.
Right,
the
cool.
circus. Yeah. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.